Something got the basic name.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how it happens. I mean, they're not stupid people. It's just very, very deep disagreements about what justice is, right?
Wait, explain in simpler terms. I don't watch the news.
Yeah. So we have three co-equal branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. The legislative branch is bicameral. We have a Congress, which is sort of the older people who go for longer terms, but the bicamerality of the House means that the discussion goes on among the much more numerous party, right? I mean, democracy is government by conversation. So there's a conversation here, and then that gets codified into legislation. And if you've ever seen legislation, right, it looks like a philosophical argument. It's a bunch of therefore or wherefore clauses followed by proposed legislation, right? That's like premises and conclusions in an argument, right? So then the lower house packages that together, sends it up to the higher house, which is more deliberative and cooler-headed, right? And then we either have a law produced or it's just, I'm just a bill. You know that part, right? Yeah. And so if one of that bicameral structure is non-functioning, otherwise doesn't have a speaker, right, to conduct the business, then government just goes coop and freezes where it is while the whole world around us is blowing up, right? But so yeah, is that better? Okay. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
They took him out.
They took him out. They have to be elected. And certain members of that caucus, of the Republican caucus, still believe that the 2020 election was stolen, is basically, and are operating under that premise.
And they're all stuck divided, so it's really hard to elect a new official.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of this is, honestly, us trying to still get used to the internet.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not that old yet, and the disruption it's caused has made people now, instead of, right, people who go to vote, right, or are thinking about voting or expressing, right, like my friends do it, so many of them I have to say, look guys, it's not a restaurant. Right? When you vote, it's not a freaking restaurant. You're not going to get the exact same thing. You gotta be strategic about this stuff, right? But so, right, with the advent of the internet, everybody's a star now. We've entered the age of the amateur, where Andy Warhol once said, someday everybody will be famous for 15 minutes. Right? People focus on the 15 part. I always focused on the everybody part. Everybody's going to get 15, now it's 15 microseconds, right? Yeah. But nevertheless, everybody thinks they're famous and is acting like it now because they're a web presence that other people can, And so it's not the strategic thing anymore. It's who suits my, right? Who do I as a personal influencer? I mean, come on, I don't know what the hell that dance was, but you know what I mean? It's just squishy thinking is what I was trying to replicate. But anyway,
more about identity than opinion.
Yeah, exactly. More identity than reasoned opinion. Give me your name again, bro.
Cameron.
Dude, that's what I was groping for. You're the best. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And a lot of these things, I got to say, that go haywire, right? Not my president, right? Identity issues. A lot of those start as ideas on the left. And then people on the left are so sure they're right about those things that they overdo it. And then people on the right are like, okay, feel what that's like, and throw it back. And it's just this big food fight, am I right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yes, sir?
I saw a thing from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And
Yeah.
It says that,
my governor for a while when I was in Cali.
Republican, we shouldn't be enemies. We should work together with the Democrats and the Republicans. And it used to be like that. And then somewhere along the line, politics became weaponized, and now we have what we have.
Well, there used to be federal legislation called the Fairness Doctrine, where anytime you have a program that engages in politics, you have to have two sides of the issue. You have to have somebody giving a position and then someone challenging that position and give them roughly equal time, right? Well, that law, I don't remember the exact day, but that law was struck down, or I can't remember, by executive order, by Ronald Reagan, right? And I'm not trying to demonize that guy, but he really did kind of give the death blow to the middle class in America. And what we've been seeing since 1980 is just this hollowing out of the middle class. all of the money going to the top in the financial realm, and everybody who used to have blue-collar jobs is now just, they get fentanyl instead. Yay, from China. Yeah. Yeah, that's the globe, man. That's the globe. All right, y'all. So again, because I promised that I would, because we've sort of taken a bump up in technical content with the introduction of Rawls's work, I just want to carefully walk us through the reading I've assigned today. I will post this, but what I'm going to do in class today is elaborate on these various points and sort of try to give the connective tissue between them. Okay? Any questions on Rawls so far? The general explanation, right? Contracting, but you don't know who you are, but you know certain things about the world you're in and how the various places are you can occupy, but you're behind a veil of ignorance in what's called the original position, this contracting scenario, right? And when you lift the veil, you could be anywhere on that distribution. And remember that distribution, right, from high to low is not money, it's primary goods. We might even say access to primary goods. Right. So we'll sort of weave our way through that, right? But so, of course, each of these are page numbers and paragraph numbers, right? What I'm going to do is just summarize what's going on there so you can go through the reading yourself, right? This doesn't substitute for the reading either. But when you do the reading, go through, and that just looks like chaos, doesn't it? Like something's going to happen there. Right, and sort of elaborate on those things, and we can stop and say, wait, what's he? If you want to, just throw your hand up and say that you have a question. Okay, so he starts from the assumption that citizens are free and equal. Down here, he defines those terms, so we'll get to that in a second. But roughly speaking, right, that people do have liberty, right? They're not some kind of enslaved class, right? And yeah, in other words, the first sentence up there means pretty much what you think it does, right? And that society is not defined in such a way that certain types of individuals or certain specific individuals relate in a superposition in terms of their liberty and powers with respect to other people, all right? As a starting position, right? As citizens, right? Now, I am a citizen, and so is the president, right? Now, the president, but I don't have, God, what is it even called? Secret Service protection, God, or access to Air Force One or anything like that. But that's because I don't have to do what he has to do, right? He's a role occupier, right? Like we were saying with, no, we weren't yet. We haven't gotten to Singer yet. Singer's next. We'll talk about role occupiers more when we get to Singer. But so, right, so those kind of inequalities of access to primary goods can be explained not by reference to he's more of a citizen than me, but I'm an adjunct professor in Utah and he's running the country, right? Or, supposed to be. All right. Next paragraph, I just wanted to remain neutral on that question, right? Even that is controversial these days, right? So his theory is called, right, his book is called A Theory of Justice, and he calls his own theory, right, not utilitarianism, not deontology, but a justice as fairness. The fairness is, right, the veil of ignorance, that we can't privilege certain classes of people based upon things that they haven't chosen about themselves, right? Start with the moral premise, we can only credit or blame somebody for the choices they make. We can't credit or blame somebody for being born in 1965 or being born in Uganda or being born black or gay or what have you, right? Right? Born gay, is that a thing? All right, we'll say that's an open question. Okay. But the other ones, right? Born blonde, right? It's genetics. You don't choose that stuff. You don't choose your own parents, right? And so on, right? And so to sort of create different classes of access to primary goods based upon certain characteristics that people can't control about themselves is itself unjust. Okay. So 238.2, the second point there, so his theory, justice is fairness, aims to address society at the institutional level. So I better break that down a bit, right? He's critiquing not necessarily how individual people behave, right? Or how groups behave, but how institutions are structured in order to ensure, or at least work toward, those two principles, right? Operate on those two principles, right? And so an institution is not the bricks and mortar of a building, but an institution is an organization of various duties, various roles to be occupied, right? And whatever person, whatever John, Bob, or Fred occupies any of these various positions in the institution, each of these roles is defined as having different rights and responsibilities, okay? And in addition to the org chart, right, of different roles to be occupied within the institution also has a mission statement, right? Basically, a statement of purpose. What is the reason for the police department of Orem, right, to exist? Well, it's to keep peace, protect people, right, minimize chaos, right? Statement of purpose. Statement of purposes for the U.S. Postal Service, right, is neither rain nor snow nor dark of night shall keep our agents from their assigned tasks, right? And those tasks are assigned by the org chart, okay? So he's making critique of institutions and how they function, okay? We're not going to get deep into bureaucratic analysis, right? But that's just what he's making clear there, okay? So the next paragraph mentioned here, right? So start with this. So if citizens are in fact free and equal, clearly you can walk down pretty much any street in America and see disparities in access to primary goods, right? Even if it's, right, the house next door to you sells for $180,000 and yours is $150,000, right? Even that difference there, right? Never mind homelessness, right? So that's the topic he takes on. JAF is just justice is fairness, right? Tries to spell out what a non-autocratic society looked like because he uses the word, get ready, brace yourself, you ready? Liberal, right? He uses the word liberal in that paragraph, and I want you to understand it the way that, I know, mind-blowing, right? I want you to understand the way that he's saying it. He's using it in the old sense, right? Not the Birkenstocks wearing, dope smoking, dreadlocks even though you're white, which I did. I did that in the early 90s. I had dreads. They were smelly. My girlfriend told me to cut them off, so I didn't. I broke up with her. No, anyway. I can't remember what happened, right? But anyway, not that, like, you know, more recent caricature of the term liberal. And there are people who are actually like that, right? I would have a hard time denying the label myself, but I'm more philosopher, right? But before I became a philosopher, yeah, my parents were like office hippies, you know? Anyway, never mind. But I guess I'll call myself that. I'm an office hippie. No. But liberal in the classical sense means there's not a king, right? That there is no autocratic power. It just means that it's it's not a military junta, it's not a dictatorship, it's not an autocracy, it's not a kingdom or a queendom, right? It's where people have some say in what goes on, okay? This is actually a conversation that citizens of a republic have with one another, right? That's what the old sense of liberal means. But so I define that as just saying non-autocratic, right? This, justice as fairness, right? He's forming this theory in a situation, right? Occurs against a background just means we're in a world in which, right? There is what he calls reasonable pluralism. That we disagree, but one of us isn't saying that the moon is made of cheese, right? there are situations in this world where there are reasoned, disciplined differences of opinion over a matter, right? Where two people are honestly looking at something with true intensity and care and seeing different things, right? And that's what we get for not being perfect beings, right? And thank God we're not, because then there would be no free will, all right? But reasonable pluralism just means that we can, right, have differences of opinion that have good reasons to back them up, right? Where there's no real flaw in the argument, right, on either side. And that's because there's further elaboration to be made about this background of reasonable pluralism. It's that individuals affirm what Rawls calls comprehensive doctrines. Comprehensive doctrines. Those are things like isms, right? Ideologies, right? Comprehensive doctrines purport to be a system of belief that kind of covers everything. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, capitalism, communism, feminism. All of these are comprehensive doctrines. Atheism, right? And so you're going to have certain comprehensive doctrines that may have some overlap, but depending upon where the conversation, where the issue is, if it's not in here, in their shared set, this is just representing the territory of this group's shared beliefs, right? Say these are communists and these are feminists. Pick two at random. Communists and Christians and atheists, whatever, right? But there are things where we have to take care of things in society and set up rules and so on and decide that A equals A, right? And the comprehensive doctrine may keep people who belong to these two groups from actually endorsing one another's points of view, okay? And yet, most of the time, because we are human, right? Any of those isms, bless you, any of those isms, right, that I mentioned are still the isms of not turtles and squirrels, but human beings. And as varied as we can be and as adaptable as we can be, as human beings, we share a hell of a lot more than we don't share in common with one another, right? So there's always going to be this hope of what's called an overlapping consensus. Where we can agree upon just enough where we can actually move forward on a problem. So take abortion, right? Here's pro-choice, here's pro-life, right? The least we can agree upon is that young mothers ought to not be in such a vulnerable position, especially in a country with this kind of wealth, where they're forced to make that kind of choice, right? And you can say, right, you can deny that economic situations force people to decide to get abortions. I don't know, the world's tough out there, guys, you know? Whether or not you think that's okay, it happens all the freaking time, right? And so at least we can have some kind of system where we provide care for young mothers so that they don't have to make those kinds of decisions, right? Whether you're in either camp, that's one place of overlapping consensus where we can say, all right, at least here we can get something done. At least we can take a little chunk out of the problem, right? Okay, so that's reasonable pluralism, right? Then we will not agree upon everything since our doctrines are comprehensive. I forgot to put that on here. Okay, so that's kind of a big part of political philosophy, what we just did there, right? But I think we get the general shape of it, right? That really the art of politics is the art of compromise, and that's why, right, we've got people in office now who are like, I'm going to go there and not compromise because the whole place is Mordor, and if I treat it as anything less than Mordor, I am part of Mordor, right? Swamp, Mordor, you know. Oh, I get editorialized by the AI. I love it.
Drain the swamp.
Yeah. Drain the swamp in my head. All right, well, that was fun. But so, yeah, right? And individuals who can't accept the fact of reasonable pure pluralism that arises from the existence, the undeniable existence of comprehensive doctrines, right? Whether or not there's a doctrine out there, a magic doctrine, that everybody would finally agree with, right? Right? We still have to, decide how, all human experience is interpretive, right? But so the fact of the matter is, right, even without that sci-fi situation that there's a true universal doctrine, right, we're going to have these. And people who are at the level where it's like, I'm going to eliminate all other comprehensive doctrines are the most dangerous people on earth, and they should certainly not be in government, but they are.
I was going to say this sounds a little bit like what we were talking about earlier, identity and opinion.
Sure.
If we adhere to a singular comprehensive doctrine,
Right.
then that seems like an issue of identity where we're just forging all of our opinions based on a sense of belonging.
Hey guys, I'm so sorry. This is pretty important what we're covering. I just don't want you to miss out is all. Much love. I know you're catching each other up and stuff like that. But I just want to make sure everybody else can focus. Hey.
That's all.
Yeah. So it's funny, right? Charles Taylor and Anthony Abbia are two philosophers today who talk about identity with respect to the political sphere. And we have, all of us, various attributes, right? When we were talking about Aristotle, we were talking about the various teloi that we have within us, right? Well, some of us rank those teloses, right? Just to anglicize it a little, those teloses, some of us prioritize those in different ways than other ones, right? How important exercise and sports and stuff are to me may be different from the way somebody else does, right? And that goes all the way up to the comprehensive doctrines, right? I mean, I was Catholic, then Lutheran, now I'm agnostic, right? I just reckon there ain't one. No, right? God, ain't no God. No, I don't have a strong, but even if I am that, I'm not like out there like Sam Harris yelling about it, right? Bill Maher out there yelling about it, right? If we talk about that, I kind of say, well, I go with the principle of epistemic humility, right? I only know so much and no more, right? Anything else is, arrogation, right? But you also have people who are trained in a certain discipline, as I am, right? And they believe that because they're an expert in one domain, they're an expert in all domains, right? That's called ultra-crepidation, by the way, one of my favorite words. Right? Thinking that if you're good at one thing, you're good at everything, right? Well, Michael Jordan. But no, he sucks at golf. Okay, sweet. The doctrine stands. So I've got a few hands up. Let's get you all in here. Lydia, my friend?
Cameron.
Cameron?
Ashton.
Ash, thanks, Ash.
This is kind of an English question, but do you know why it's like Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and then suddenly there's like Christianity? Just like the suffix?
Jesusism.
I like it.
Yeah, we should have consistency there then. I like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I would say it's historical that Christianity as a word was established, and then only after did the philosophy come along to kind of put these things in lists. Because of course when Christianity was christened, as it were, right, communism wasn't a thing. Well, it was, but it wasn't called communism, right?
Okay.
The early Christians were in fact communists. They just didn't call it that.
Huh.
Oh God, yeah, they were they were way out there, man.
No, I believe it.
They were lefty AF. I mean, what's a kibbutz? Look it up, right? Judaism, early Judaism, very, very early Israel, super socialist, dude. Way social. Oh God, yeah, pretty much communist. In that a kibbutz is a commune. It's a little farming community where everybody's got defined roles and there's total equality of. Right? Yeah. This world is way more commie than we think. We just try to brand stuff to make a name for ourselves. I am the anti-commie anyway.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's worked in the past. People have lived because of it, you know what I mean? But yeah, my friend.
Oh, I was gonna bring it back to overlapping sense, but
Yeah, go. Anything we've covered so far, don't worry.
kind of like what we were saying as the identity, identifying yourself politically, kind of attaching your identity to that.
Yeah.
Makes that overlapping consensus so it dwindles it like a lot because.
Or does it multiply it? I was just thinking what you were saying, because if I can't get along with you in terms of who we're going to vote for, maybe we like the same sports team, maybe we both like the Beatles, maybe we both, you know.
Yeah.
So you're right in that. It's a really interesting problem, isn't it? Because we have all of these various dimensions in which we stretch to certain degrees, and others have their degree, you know. I mean, one of my good buddies from high school loves Trump. Okay, I'm just going to say it. I think you could probably pick up that I don't love him, right? I care for his soul, but you know what I mean. But he and I just looked at the conversation and the horrors of political discourse since 1996, Newt Gingrich, but we won't get into that. Right? And just said, you know what, we're going to be friends despite that. And we have been.
But I feel like when you attach your identity, in the sense that you won't have overlapping consensus on political opinion, because when you identify that way, it becomes a part of you, and so
if some politician is being attacked, you're being attacked.
Yeah.
And that's being used, right? Somebody said, "I am your retribution." Somebody said, in the most crazy, like, upending of the Christian, you know, story, right? I will suffer for you. I am being punished for you. He said this, right? I'm not going to say who, but right? It's like this messianic figure of just darkness. Yeah.
I work in a nursing home, and it is.
Oh, brother, you do beautiful work, man.
Well, it's funny the difference in generations, because if you go into their rooms or their apartments, they're always on either Fox or CNN. But so you can kind of pick up right away. But I remember I was talking to someone while I was fixing something, and they were talking about voting, and I was like, I'm gonna be honest, ever since I've been able to vote, I haven't voted, and that always really pisses people off. But
so that's an identity thing.
Yeah. So this lady told me it's more important than ever that you vote for a Republican. That's what she said, and I'm like, well, now you're assuming a conservative. And
you know what's behind that,
you're
though.
attaching yourself to the party.
Yeah. And it's rough because we need people who care about what's going on in this world. But and thank you for being honest about voting. That's quite brave. You mean
I've only been able to vote since.
Oh, right.
I don't. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. See, if I were to say that would be another thing for a 53-year-old to say. Nah.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I feel you, man. Has it been that you felt like you haven't had any options you could get excited about? Yeah, well, that's...
And a lot of people are like, well, if you don't vote, then you voted for the winner. My dad likes to say that a lot. But for me, it's like, I'm not going to vote based on who's better than the other. Like, based on who's the least evil. You know what I mean? That's just not...
I was not yet 30, so kind of young to realize this, but I was just like... From now on, I'm voting strict damage control. That's it. Just like I vote for the least potentially damaging candidate, and it's not something to get excited about. And it's like going to do the laundry, but I do it, yeah. And it may or may not. I mean, my vote in Utah, in California, it didn't matter either, right?
Yeah,
in Wisconsin, I get to get my ass back there. But yeah.
When I lived in San Diego, it was like.
Well, right. Oh, when were you there, bro? Was your mission there?
No, I was in the military actually.
Oh, thank you.
My
for clarifying.
vote was by mail, and like I remember going down, and I did look at some local politicians and voted.
Yeah.
But for the upper ones, I just put like a random name.
Yeah.
Just because I wasn't.
Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna vote for Trump or Biden, to be honest. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same. If like there's a lot of people in California who are not gonna be ultra conservatives, but are conservative leaning.
Yeah, Orange
And it's
County, San Diego,
Yeah.
that's pretty reliably red.
It's like, you don't have a point voting.
Yeah.
Because it's never gonna happen.
Right.
The same thing if you're a liberal in, I don't know, Alabama, Texas.
Yeah. Plenty of places. And plenty of places that have good reason to be over there ideologically because of how that part of the world's been treated. A lot of history there, man. A lot of history. My friend, thank you for your patience. Ashton.
So I was just going to talk about the comprehensive doctrine,
Yeah.
and having a universal doctrine to
Yeah.
me is impossible because I
So
feel
you're a
like,
pragmatist.
I just think there's always going to be someone that wants to marry their car or something. It might be chaos theory, but you know what I mean?
Sure.
Sure. You can, try to think everyone wants to get along, but
Yeah.
it's like why world peace will never be a thing. There's always someone that just wants to watch the world burn.
Well, who's the real villain? Oh God, should I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Do it.
Who's the real villain in Gaza right now?
I don't know.
To me, it's more so all the Americans commentating on it. No.
I'm the biggest villain in Gaza. Oh my God.
No, I feel like people here adapt really strong opinions again on identity.
I mean, Americans are pretty squishy, actually. You go to Israel or Russia, you'll get opinions there, bro. You get, oh damn, right?
And
It's
they're not
like
so-
worse than going down to the roadhouse where the bikers hang out, bro. May I? The biggest villain in Gaza right now is religion.
Mhm.
And it always has been.
Yeah.
Was that one of those things where it's like, duh, obviously?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Oh, I was gonna actually ask your opinion on it though,
There are no clean hands on either side of that fight,
do you
my
think
friend.
it's just a really complicated?
I can't end with that. That's a kind of a cop-out. I think that, can't we just give one of them Wyoming or something? No. Here's the weird thing. What answer you come up with depends on how far back you slide the ethical gate. Who kicked sand, because there's just fucking sand there. Who kicked sand in the other, all right, that's terrible, but there's also rocks, okay, I'll be fair. Right? Who kicked sand in the other one's face first? How far back is the historical record?
Was it the Crusades?
The Crusades are middle of the story, dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How far back can you go? A lot of people go back to 1948. Well, that's a big event, right? End of World War II, discovering, right? Like, human beings trusted themselves a lot more before US and Russian soldiers. I mean, the Russians were less concerned about it because that's their culture, right? But walking into those concentration camps and seeing those pyramids of just bodies, humanity had a real moment of like, oh, I'm not who I thought I was, kind of thing, right? So that's how we got the United Nations, that's how we got the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. But 1948 is fairly late in things in terms of the relationship between frickin' Jews and Arabs, right?
And you have like a.
And it goes back before Islam even. Sorry, 6th
So
century.
you have like a perfect storm of Muslims who feel like this is our home.
The Shoah and the Nakba.
Yeah, and you have kids being raised that only know
They're indoctrinated.
Have done horrible things.
Yeah.
Then you have the Israeli.
If people accuse the LDS Church of indoctrinating youth, oh boy, does Hamas indoctrinate youth. The thing people don't understand about Hamas is they're not just a terrorist organization. Yes, they were voted into office, but they were less corrupt than the alternative, because Hamas makes the electricity and water and food flow, right? Better than the alternative. Oh, and then they also have this side thing, right? Just like
part-time terrorists.
yeah, just like Sinn Féin with Ireland. I'm watching a wonderful movie now called Belfast. Anybody seen that? Bro, it's the same thing but with white people. Anyway,
You know about the IRA?
the Sinn Féin IRA, right? Hamas is the same term. They don't have a separate thing, but Hamas is a social welfare organization with a military component.
And it's funny to me that the Western world likes to say, how can, and I'm not backing them off by the way when I say this, but it's funny to me how the Western world likes to say, how can someone sympathize with Hamas that's born there, but then they have a prime example in the IRA.
Right.
Where there was lots of sympathy for the IRA.
Yeah, Sinn Féin is their political arm.
And
Yeah.
people were like, well, it's justified.
Yeah.
But they can't see the other side.
I love that the present UAW boss, United Auto Workers boss, is named Sean Féin.
Yeah.
Because he's a fighter, bro. He's going after those billionaires and really getting them, man. He's my hero today. But yeah, the Shoah is the Hebrew word for the Holocaust. And the Nakba is means catastrophe in Arabic when Israel emerged as a new state and was recognized by the UN after fighting off the militaries of 5 different Arab states that surrounded it, right? So the Shoah and the Nakba, you gotta know the history of those, right? But again, 1948 is way late in the game, like millennia late, right?
And I just wanted to make, like,
Yeah.
some, in the same way that people can't see how Palestinians could, like, people like to say, oh, the Palestinians and Hamas are not the same thing. They are intertwined as much as we like to ignore that. But,
Oh yeah, I mean, like the LDS churches here, it's not, it's just
Yeah.
totally understandable.
but
Of course it's gonna be
also
among
on the
people.
same token, people are like, well, how can Israel justify bombing civilians to kill Hamas? But they don't understand that Israel has formed a culture of not like isolationist and more of like F everyone else because they know their history of.
Yeah, not so much isolationist, but like Fortress Israel.
Yeah.
Because they certainly engage with the world, right? But they are very much Fortress Israel. They're right on the forefront of desalinating water, which we need to do, right? Yeah, it's, we could get a keg and talk about it for an entire week without leaving this room. It'd get smelly after a while, but yeah, it's a long. Did everybody talk who wanted to? Lydia, please.
Do we know where Palestine came from? Because I know Christianity and Judaism kind of originated from the same source, and then Islam debatably originated from the same source, so they're all in that area. But
Well, Jerusalem is highly important to all three.
yeah, but where did Palestine come from?
Oh, so there is this idea out there that there's no such thing as a I'm not saying that you're doing this, but I just want to, because I've been in this freaking conversation for, I don't know, 40 years now. I would have been 13 then. All right, 37. No, that's what I was trying to, anyway. But there's a theory out there that says the Palestinian people are entirely manufactured, that there is no real Palestine, even though that's what it was called. The British Mandate for Palestine was the name of the territory that is now called Israel, right? Of course, people call things different names. I mean, the Native American, the Utes here have different names for things than we do, right? We call that Mount whatever they call it. No, that's friggin', and their name is older, but ours is snappier, so we go with ours, right? But so, I mean, that's just a really basic thing about humans in general. In this specific case, whether or not one institution or other, one government or other, has a particular name for the place, the facts on the ground remain that there were Muslim people who have generally, right, are genetically similar. There's no such thing as race. We can go into that one sometime. That should be kind of explosive, right? As much as we fight about race these days, it's not a real thing. It's just a mistake we keep making. Genetics shows us that it's not a real thing. But who shares certain genetic similarities, and so can be called roughly a people, right? And the same with Jews. And, in, what's it called? I'm not going to remember it. Present-day Spain, in the medieval era, was controlled by the Moors, right, who were an Arabic people. And in Spain at that time, right, which was ruled, right, by Islam, right? Jews were very tolerated, as were Christians. It was a very, very ecumenical society. Ecumenical means religions talking with each other, right? And there was all kinds of rights established by benevolent rulers. So really, when we've had all three religions together in history, the situation in which they all got along best was under Islam. And that's just a fact. And so, right? It doesn't, whether or not this entity is proclaiming or this entity is proclaiming, the facts on the ground are in that area presently called Palestine. There's a long, long history, right? And we have to go to radiocarbon dating fights to say, look, that's a Jewish stick there that's buried 50 feet underground. Yeah! And then a Palestinian goes, that's a Palestinian stick next to it that's 3 inches deeper. And it's fucking ridiculous, right? And the fact is they've both been there since time immemorial and this is important, went through that surviving there with a particular comprehensive doctrine, right, that they made up, or that God revealed to them, whatever you want to say, right? But the identity that they have is secured to, that's where Jesus was crucified. This is where Muhammad, made his bed, right? Had chicken. I don't know, right? Had a kebab. Hey, a kebab, right? They're good. Right? And so it's like, no, I'm not going to let somebody else say what happens to this spot where Jesus was crucified. Because he's, and it's very much this identity thing. And unfortunately, it involves something that God's not making any more of, namely land. Right? So I say, is Montana really that full right now? Can't we just dump a bunch of them in there?
Cornfields in Nebraska.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, Nebraska. Pretty girl behind every tree. All right. Come on. That's the joke, bro. All right. Plenty of beautiful women in Nebraska, just so we know. Okay. All right. Well, that was fun. Will, got to hear from you, brother.
This is like way back.
Yeah.
When we were
Bring us back onto the tracks, dude. We're on the field. So it's great out here, isn't it? Nebraska, exactly.
When we were talking about the veil, like the veil, so he says that like when we are creating society or creating laws, right?
Yeah, sort of. It's not. When we're imagining the creation of laws.
Yeah, of laws, we should put that veil in front of us.
Or just assume that the people who are in that position are behind it. What would they say? The point of the exercise is to affirm the 2 principles of justice. Sorry.
Right. So, does he give like a way to make that possible? Just because for instance, lawmakers, like if we're trying to say like people who make laws should put themselves behind this veil.
I mean, it's not possible, right? Have you guys seen that series Severance?
Yeah.
Bro! So that is there a sequel coming out?
There is.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't wait for it. Thank God there's so much other crap out there. Ahsoka? Anybody digging Ahsoka? Hell yeah, dude.
I'm on Loki right now.
Loki's dope, yes. I can't figure out what the hell's going on. My daughter likes it, so I'm like, yeah.
I like the Owl House a lot.
Yeah, oh, okay, I'll have to check that out.
It's on Disney Plus.
But so it would have to be like that. So basically you go into this elevator and you just take on this completely work identity and your actual home life is gone. It would have to be something like that, and that we don't have the technology for that. And if we did, there'd be a lot of laws broken and human rights violated, right? But yeah, so it isn't supposed to be that. So you're like, so how is this useful at all? Well, it's supposed to be something that is used by political theorists, which we are right now while we're discussing this issues. We're all political theorists. That we as political theorists should imagine these people in that. So how is it possible? The only thing that needs to be possible is that you can see it in your head.
And you're like in such a theoretical sense right now.
Exactly. So this is exactly. So he calls it a divisive representation, But it's a device of representation that operates at the theoretical level, you're right, and not at the practical
Not
level.
the practical.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to actually add that in because that should be much more clear, that distinction. Yeah, thank you, Will. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I think to an extent something that might relate to that is that a practical application of that is like asking how much are we paying politicians, or who is getting into positions of power, right? Because if we like
And what kind of psychological makeup makes somebody want to do that? The worst kind. Sorry, go ahead.
But when we're like in the film we watched for the last for the essay, like it talked a lot about how we have these CEOs who end up as financial advisors in the government and like things like
Revolving door.
Right. And like the
Between business and government, yeah.
right, the conflict of interest, that's the word I'm looking for. Like
Yes.
I feel like the idea of the veil is kind of attempting to remove that conflict of interest, right? And so my question is there a way that we can do what you're saying and find a practical, literal application of the veil in the OP?
Well, so that would be something like ethics rules for congressional members, right? Hey, you gave money to this organization, or you took money for this organization, and this law passed that benefits them. What's going on there, sneaky boy?
Right.
Just total happenstance, and sometimes it's just total happenstance. That's about 2% of the time, right? Because there's morality and prudentiality, and oh boy, does it show up in government. Oh my God,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, I think that's an excellent observation, my friend. So we'll just keep proceeding as we have been on Friday. Again, keep working on your papers if you have to. I'll start grading them in a day or two because they're still coming in. If you have trouble, just reach out, man. I'm here for you. I got you. Thanks so much for showing up today, and we'll continue Friday. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Hey, how you doing, bud?
How are you?
Good. Oh. How did you get this? I didn't send this to you, did you?
No, it like
Okay.
generates from the phone.
I only. Yeah, no, I know. People don't check this out enough, but only when it's above like 12 do I then download it and I say, hey, just so you know, there's this. Do you want to give it another shot? I don't come down like you plagiarized.
Well, I was like, it's only flagging like my work Friday.
Well, yeah, because every freaking paper
what?
that's ever been handed in for my class has those
Okay,
things.
okay.
So don't even. That's nothing. That's just like if you say categorical imperative, which you have to say,
Yeah.
it checks that.
Okay.
So it is pretty evil, pretty good,
Yeah.
right? It's pretty damn extensive. But don't feel bad about it because the very fact of my asking you to write these things means that there's going to be a lot of repetition.
Okay.
You're in the
That's what I
clear.
was asking Briley about. I was like,
Yeah, no,
is
you're
yours
super
like
good.
this? 'Cause
Oh yeah, you're super good, and I'm glad you guys are doing that. That's
Okay.
yeah, no. Thank you for checking that though.
Of
Okay, in 8 years of them having that, you're the first person to do that. So
Really?
feel proud.
Well, I just saw it and I said I plagiarized and I was like, well, crap.
No.
Okay. Well,
Just
thank
means
you.
it appears somewhere else.
Okay.
And I would say 90% of those cases when I look at them, I'm like, oh, okay. Because I do, before I send it to anybody, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, of course this is going to be,
Yeah.
because it's a block quote from Mill.
Yeah,
Of
okay.
course that's going to show up.
Okay,
But yeah.
awesome. I just
But yeah,
wanted to
so just because it's found elsewhere does not ipso mean that it's plagiarism.
Okay, awesome. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure with you.
It means you're on the right path.
Well, thank you.
Congrats, my friend.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day.
I just wanted to ask if I could get an extension on my paper.
Yes, buddy.
Okay.
Email me,
Thank you.
just so I have it on record. Because sometimes I have to cover my ass.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I will send you an email right
Yeah,
away.
but hey, I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Let me know if you need any help.
Mine's same thing on that.
Yeah.
My paper's getting there. It's just I've been
Okay,
so
but
busy with
hit
other
me up.
classes. Yeah, for sure.
Hit me up.
Also, my first essay,
Yeah.
I submitted. You had asked me to resubmit it just in essay format because I forgot to take
Oh,
it
yeah.
out of the outline format. And
Do I need to grade it still?
Yes.
Just email me both of
Okay.
those things.
Okay.
I need a little more time, and can you grade my first one?
Perfect. Sweet.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, man. Ah! We're gonna march very slowly through it.
Okay.